deep inside the piney woods of Northeast Texas. You are listening to Talk of the Night. And now, your host, Paranormal Phil. Thank you, and good evening, good morning, wherever you may be around the world. I am your host, Paranormal Phil. This is Talking Night, and we are deep in, or at least I am, deep in the piney woods of Northeast Texas, home of I think they call him the Woolly Burger, Bigfoot. But anyways, tonight we're not talking about Bigfoot. We are talking about ley lines, healing energies, empathic abilities, and all that great stuff with my guest, Mindy Jackson. And we're going to get into all that stuff here in a moment, but let's please welcome my guest, Mindy, to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you on the show. So tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and how you got into the work that you do.
Well, I am a psychotherapist, a Reiki master, and a spiritual coach, among many other hats that I wear. And I have in my entire life been pretty spiritual and tapped in, which I attribute partially to a near-death experience at age 5 and partially to my upbringing. I I knew that I wanted to be a healer and didn't know what direction to go into until I found the psychology department at the University of West Georgia, which is humanistic transpersonal psychology. So that set me off on a path that has led me to where I am now too.
Okay, so that's more of working with people with like grief or
I specialize in treating PTSD and other trauma-related disorders and anxiety disorders using an integration of clinical skills and various energy healing modalities, some shamanic practices as well.
okay. Now, you mentioned 5 years old. Was that when you first realized this ability, the empathic abilities and everything like that?
No, I didn't realize that right at first. And honestly, I didn't realize it truly until I was probably an older teen. I just thought I was feeling everybody's stuff and able to communicate with plants and animals the way I did, and thought everybody else did too, until I guess around age 10 or 11, I realized the other kids were not having the same kind of experiences necessarily that I was having. And as a teen, of course, I tried to fit in and shut it down, but I was the weird, awkward, sensitive kid and didn't fit in, which I'm grateful for now. But no, I think really the realization hit me probably around the early college days when I think I recall first hearing of what an intuitive empath is and was like, whoa, they're talking about me.
Yeah. Yeah, because like for me, it was I was 5 years old when I first realized my abilities. Um, I saw my first spirit at the age of 5. Um, and of course, later on in life, I learned that my grandmother was a witch. Um, I forget. I think it was like the pagan, yeah, pagan religion or something like that. It was further on down, not grandmother, but further on down the line. So that ability passed from generation to generation. It skipped my mom's generation and hit me. And I don't know if I know you'd mentioned intuitive empath, but I don't know if you've ever heard the term hyper empath.
Well, my understanding of that is having deep empathy, a deeper level of empathy than just your typical um, intuitive empath or the typical empathy everybody, well, except for maybe sociopaths, are born with, right? So that hyper, uh, it's like being able to tap in on a quantum level so deeply that you can gain whatever information you're really seeking. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah,
or
I
add
mean,
to it.
because that's what I consider myself as a hyper empath because I got
Yes,
all
that
the
makes
different
sense.
abilities that um, psychics have, clairvoyance, clairaudience, all that
Yeah.
stuff, and then the empathic abilities, you name it. It took me a while to understand and get used to that abilities and shut it down when I've learned to shut it down now, but it took me a while to learn how to shut down when I need a break. And I'm pretty sure you're the same way that you, every once in a while, you need to shut down and take a break from it.
Well, I do it a little bit differently. I have learned how to put various boundaries and parameters in place that prevent me from overload and prevent me from absorbing too much.
Mm.
I used to have a really hard time with that because of, the near-death experience. I didn't have those boundaries in place growing
Mm.
up, and over the years, have had to learn how to do that. So I don't often experience that overwhelm anymore like I used to. I did try to shut it down years ago, and I think in retrospect, I wasn't paying attention to my own biorhythms. And so trying to shut it, it was sort of a black or white kind of situation. And I didn't realize how much gray area there really was in being able to manage it for myself. And I know a lot of people manage it differently. And no, I don't think any one way is better than another. I think we just each have to find what works for us.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's basically shut myself off to the world, taking time to listen to the sounds of nature, uh, shut my brain off to that spirit realm or whatever people want to call it. And I mean, it's because I've been to locations where it's crowded, and then all of a sudden, all these spirits want to come to me and like, get this message out, get this message out. It's like, shut up, let me have my own time. But anyways, what is it like for you to be an intuitive empath? I
I mean,
mean,
that's a loaded question.
how does it feel to you? How's it helping the work that you do?
Well, now, of course, compared to when I was younger, I have a much better handle on it than I did then. So, what it is for me now is it helps me be able to connect with my clients without taking on um, the emotions or the energy that they are discharging, because oftentimes in the process of healing trauma, there is a lot of discharge, there's a lot of catharsis. I do teach my clients how to feel energy for themselves, learn how to discern different types of energy. And when we're ready, and we try to do it fairly early on, teach them how to transmute that energy from their own nervous system and their energy body, because it's more empowering for them to do it than it is for me to do it for them.
Mm.
So it helps me be able to feel where my client is, to be in the flow so that I'm meeting my client where they are without me taking on what's going on with my client.
So you're not
That is part of my
absorbing their
professional work.
energy, is what you're saying.
Yes, to a degree, yes.
Okay, yeah, because I mean, like me, I know it. I deal with depression and anxiety, which is a bad combination. But, um, anyways, it's hard for me to, well, as far as when I'm in that state, it's hard for me to use that energy to something more positive. But I mean, I'm working on that myself. So, um, how if you got somebody that's dealing with anxiety and depression like I am, how would you go about helping somebody like that?
I mean, first of all, I do an assessment. I've got to see, what is this rooted in? Can we rule out any medical conditions, or are there medical conditions that are a manifestation of pent up, held on to energies, frequencies, trauma. I do a trauma assessment, and I discuss with the client what their beliefs are, what their spiritual and religious, or if they have one or the other, what their beliefs are, and how will that potentially play out in the work that we'll do together. And I have a specific skill set, so I'm not for everybody. Not every client is for me either.
Yeah.
So I try to get as much of a clear picture. And any therapist can tell you that that assessment that you do is sort of a living document. You're adding information to it over time, and sometimes you might need to edit it, because information can change. You get a fuller picture of your client. So I like to connect with my client, um, without putting them through a lot of the barrage of questions right up front, because it can be very intimidating and overwhelming, especially for somebody who has PTSD. Um, Many people are not quite ready to really talk about what's going on, and if they don't have the coping skills and support, the meaning making in place, then opening that can of worms too early can be detrimental to the client.
Yeah.
So, being able to get a clear picture of where, or as clear as possible, as early as possible, of who they are. And I read people really well, so I usually connect with my clients pretty easily.
Yeah, because I know a lot of soldiers have PTSD, and it at the beginning it's hard for a lot of us soldiers and service members to ask for help, but it took me a while to ask for help. But I didn't start off right away, and when I got the help, they didn't start off right away with barraging me with all that stuff. They tried to help me more calm myself to
Regulate,
where
yeah.
I could go over what was causing the trauma, what was causing the anxiety, what was causing the depression. But I mean, it's different for different people, whether it be military personnel or civilians. But I know military personnel, it's a little tougher because they've seen things that a lot of us or a lot of the civilian population hasn't seen.
Well, and I
Now,
think too,
yeah,
I'm
go ahead.
sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say go ahead because I'll finish up what I was saying in a moment.
Okay. Well, I will say that too, with working with veterans, one of the things that I really noticed is that there's the difference with between them and civilians oftentimes is that one, have been used to predictability to a degree while they're in service, and they're sort of broken down and rebuilt the way the military wants. And so
Mm-hmm.
your feelings and all of that stuff is over here, right? It's over there, it's out of the way so that it doesn't interfere with your work. And when the veteran comes home and is trying to reintegrate into society and live a civilian life, um, there's less predictability in life. There's too many options, and that can be overwhelming as well. And in many cases, I've seen where those feelings start to sort of thaw out again, and they don't know what to do with them. They're too overwhelmed.
Yeah, and I know I deal with the same thing, but anyways, I don't forgot what I was gonna say, but that's not your fault. There's a lot in my brain that just so many things, so many questions in my head. It's hard to, uh, it's hard to explain. But anyways, um, so you do work with more vet? Do you work with more veterans than you do civilians, or is it a
No,
mix?
no, it's primarily civilians. I've had a handful of veterans over the years. I have some that just have stayed with me for a while. Yeah.
Okay. Now, on your little flyer thing that you had sent me when you requested to be a guest, I noticed Rose Path and I'm probably gonna butcher this word. I don't know why. Initiate. What is the rose path?
The
Uh,
rose path is it's a path of understanding about the divine feminine and how the rose has been the metaphor and the symbol of the divine feminine for as long as roses have been around and as long as women have been around. It's synonymous, or it's known in ancient cultures such as Greece and ancient Egypt and Jerusalem, to represent the feminine and the unfolding of the feminine, the life cycles of the feminine as well. And roses, were used for different purposes. Different colors were used for different purposes, rites, rituals, birth, death, marriage, those kind of things. They were used to decorate temples and bring in the smell of the rose, especially for that, sort of like an aromatherapy, in a temple space. So the rose path is learning that and embracing one's own, what I call Sophia Christos, embracing that divine feminine within. And we all have masculine and feminine, but this knowledge and this wisdom is primarily feminine. So I have this beautiful teacher in the south of France, Alethea Pistis Sophia, who has taught me a lot about the rose and the significance of the rose, and many different stories about Mary Magdalene, Mother Mary, Grandmother Anna, and really sort of reintroduced me to someone I knew when I was a child, in spirit.
okay. Yeah, because it kind of almost sounds similar to the belief in my religion, Wiccan, with the different uh, the scents, the colors, all that stuff. I mean, I haven't really practiced any of my Wiccan stuff lately, but um, it's my brain has been so focused on this podcast that it takes up a lot of my time to do other things. But, anyways, it just sounds similar to some of the things that I've studied in Wicca.
Well, I think what you're really speaking to here is the energy that each color emanates or gives
Mm-hmm.
off or absorbs, depending on. So, historically, different colors have been used for different things, and in the pagan, druidic, uh, Wiccan ways, the colors have been used for various types of magic, various types of meaning, depending on, where a person is in their life, what phase they're in. Also, rites of passage, various ceremonies and rituals. And so it's not really anything that is limited to one wisdom path, belief system, or religion.
Mm-hmm. Now, at the beginning of the show, you mentioned that you were a Reiki master and a spiritual coach. For those people that don't know what Reiki master or a spiritual coach is and what it does, can you tell us a little bit about that and how do you use that to help the people that you do?
So, a Reiki master is someone who has been attuned to the different levels of Reiki by someone else who is a master, and practiced enough to advance through the different levels and can attune others who would like to study the path. And what Reiki is it's an oriental form of energy healing. Many people in the South uh, find it similar to laying on of hands. To me, it's all quantum energy flow and being able to direct that flow, knowing that that energy isn't necessarily coming from outside of oneself. It can, but most often it's coming from zero point, from within the Reiki practitioner. So in Reiki, there are various symbols that you use and hand positions. You don't necessarily touch the person that you're working on. You hover your hands over them in one level of Reiki practice. You can use a symbolic, uh, like a doll or a teddy bear or something like that to do Reiki on someone in the same room if that person has, say, a history of trauma and getting too close to their body might be very uncomfortable or triggering. It also helps with distance Reiki, which is another level of Reiki where it's pretty much quantum. It's based on quantum physics. That quantum entanglement is a really big deal in energy healing. So it's um, it's really beneficial. I've seen a lot of multi-dimensional healing come about because of Reiki. And I use Reiki Master as part of my title, but really I should just say energy healer because I use various different modalities of energy healing.
Yeah, and that pretty much covers all of it when you just say energy healing. But I mean, there a lot of people sometimes don't know that there's different parts of energy healing.
Yes, there's different modalities. Yeah. And as far as spiritual coach, that is, again, it's sort of like meeting a client where they are. The person is not coming to me for psychotherapy. They're not coming to me for energy healing per se. They're coming to me for guidance, for deepening their knowledge, some direction when it comes to what does all this mean for me? Where am I going with this? And that's primarily the main reason people, enter work with a spiritual coach is because they're trying to figure out who they are, what they can do, and how that fits into the world and what that means for them. And that's what I do is I help guide that.
Okay, yeah, because I know, like me, I've kind of helped people as far as spiritually. Um, and I'll give you an example. Um, I was helping with ghost tours out in Beverly Hills, California, at a home that sits 150 feet away from where the Manson murders happened. And the house next door to where the tours were going on was there on the night of the murder. So we had opened up, rented the house next door a to do an investigation, paranormal investigation, and that had a darker energy to the home, whereas the actual home where the tours always go on, it had a lighter uh, feel to it, lighter energy to it. Well, somebody went into that second home that was there on the night the murders happened, and something I can't remember exactly what happened, but all I know is the person came out, and luckily I was outside because I was the one monitoring 24 different cameras, and somebody came up to me and said, "This woman's having a tough time breathing. It's like she's been attacked by this darker entity or energy." And without touching her or anything like that, what I did is basically had her take a couple of deep breaths, close her eyes, and imagine the brightest white light that she could imagine. And with her doing that, just by telling her that and kind of projecting that kind of energy, also that white light energy onto her as she's doing that, she instantly, within maybe 2 minutes, felt ultimately better. And she's like, never again am I going in that house. But it was like I was doing a transfer of energy over to her to help her calm herself. Is that kind of something what you kind of do with the energy healing?
I don't transfer my personal energy to anyone. I share it, I interface, but I don't transfer. What I can do is help project 0 point source, God, creator, however you want to frame that,
Mhm.
right? Frequencies through my own energy field. And I kind of want to go back and speak to something that you said, and I think this is something that needs to be taken into consideration moving forward as we're, evolving in consciousness here, is many people associate the term dark with bad or evil, when really what we need to be saying is dense, because darkness is just absence of light, and we all hold both shadow and dark. But when we say dark, there's such a connotation, these days. There's such an attachment to the thought of evil. And just because something appears dark or seems dark doesn't necessarily mean that it is evil.
Yeah.
So I would say,
In
those
this
dense,
case, it
heavy
was, but
energies.
I get to what you're
Yeah, yeah,
saying.
yeah. So those dense, heavy energies, if you're carrying a lot of unhealed wounds, if you are, especially female, carrying a lot of generational and ancestral trauma, you're a magnet for that kind of energy in a space like that. So
And
it's not a,
I'm sorry, I don't want me to interrupt, but I do want to mention one more thing. And I didn't learn this until after she started feeling better, that she was new to her empathic abilities.
she had what now? I'm
She
sorry.
was new to her empathic abilities, so she didn't know how to handle that energy.
Yeah, and I mean, if you are new to it, then yeah, you kind of, especially if you're carrying dense heavy energy, you can sort of open yourself up to that. And I think it's important for us to understand that we don't necessarily project some or come up with some idea of a protective barrier outside of ourselves coming out of the ether somehow. What's important is that we remember that it comes from the inside out. And when we think about our chi, our channel, our central core of our light being, who we are, our divine essence, if we can imagine just pushing that out instead of trying to imagine some egg around us, right? That is much more powerful than some imaginary egg. And I hate the word imaginary. I hate the word imagination, honestly, because really it's a faculty of consciousness that we all have that helps us with our inner sight.
Mhm. Now, um, let's see. We got about 30 minutes left in the show. And if anybody wants to call in to the show and ask my guests any questions, feel free to do so. Pop in the chat. Let my producer know that you want to ask a question. Or if you don't feel like calling in, you can pop the question in the chat. We'll read it over there for you and get the answers for you. Now, you earlier in the show you mentioned NDE, or for those that don't know what NDE stands for, near death experiences, and I believe it's on your thing, OBE little thing that you sent me on the email about having OBEs, out of body experiences. Now, for somebody that's never experienced something like that, can you give us an idea of what it feels like to experience that? Because I know everybody's going to be different in their experiences on near death experiences and out of body experiences. Of course, I've never done the near death experience, but I've done the out of body experience through um, uh, what is it? Remote viewing. There's another one, and I can't think of it right now. Uh, but virtual projection that I used to work with on doing remote viewing for haunted locations to help out clients that experience haunted when I couldn't make it. Say I was out in California and I had a client in New York, had to get rid of something. I had to do a remote viewing that's of course a form of out of body experience. But for you, what was it like for the near death experiences and the out of body experiences?
Well, I can say I've had two different near-death experiences, one when I was five and the second one in 2023. And both were kind of different. The first one at age five was similar to, what you hear as some of the universal experiences of like a tunnel-like experience with a light and all of that. I've had somehow fallen off of my float in a lake near our home. And uh, I was at the age where I would hold my nose and like one arm it in the water and be like, "Look, Mom, I'm swimming underwater." And so the thing that really caught my attention was I was moving through the water and I didn't have to hold my nose or move my arms. And that got my attention. And then there was this shimmery light. And I was like, "Ooh, there's a light at the bottom of the lake. What is that doing down there? Let's go see what that is." So I had this curiosity, and the closer I got, I could see this. It was like an opening, and there were really bright, beautiful flowers. There were some, what I know now are light bodies. They didn't have distinctive features, at least that I recall, but I do recall just having a knowing that I knew who they were, even though at that point I don't think I had known of anybody that I knew had passed away. I was five.
Mhm.
Um, and it was such a one of the best ways I can describe it in a sensory way was as if the water was moving through me and I was light as a feather. I barely had a body kind of sensation. Like I don't think I had much awareness of a body at all, but it was sort of that's the closest I can come to. And it was very blissful and peaceful, and I was curious. And when I was apparently pulled back, I was drawn back through this what seemed like dark water at the time. It was sort of black and bubbly, and the next thing I know is I'm coughing and choking and I'm pissed off because I was almost there
It's
and
like
somebody
Danielle
pulled me
was
back.
almost a piece.
I was almost there. In 2023, I had a different type of near-death experience, and there's a lot that goes into that we don't really have to go into, but I will say, um, I had heart surgery to remove a cyst from my pericardium, and it was very painful. And about 3 days in, I had a stroke in the occipital lobe, which is a visual cortex. And I was put in the hospital for 11 days, and they ran tests to see why I had had the stroke. And apparently, there was a medication interaction or something with the chemistry of my body. It just didn't do right. And I was having problems with my blood pressure dropping. I just thought I was having a lot of sleepiness. And in this one instance, I remember noticing that the light in the room went from this sort of clinical kind of white light to a goldish white light, and the edges of things were kind of fuzzy. So I was like, "Oh, this is interesting. This is cool." And then I saw fingertips in my peripheral vision. And there was light, the goldish white light was coming off of those fingertips. And at first, it kind of startled me. And then I just almost immediately regulated and settled, and I realized who it was. And I was shown sort of telepathically, image wise, you can step out of that robe and into this one. And I was like, "You mean it's really that easy?" And the answer was yes. And I remember looking in the opposite direction and I could see my son and I could see my family and my friends and my colleagues and so on and so forth. And I said, "Well, I'm not really done. Can I take a rain check?" And he giggled and said yes. And the next thing I know, it was like, it wasn't the same feeling as waking up from a dream because I knew that I had just been in a different state of consciousness. I can tell how different states of consciousness feel to me. And this was similar. but it was not really the same. And as I was coming to, there was a nurse standing beside me calling my name, and she was saying, "Are you coming around? Are you coming around? Are you back with me?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm right here."
Yeah, because
So
I
that those
know
two were
for
very
different
different.
people with different religions, it's I guess everybody experiences the near death experience different. I mean, some people, and I meant to ask this is when you had those near death experiences, did you? Because I know it happens with out of body experiences, but I don't know about near death experiences. As far as I know, I don't remember having any of those. But, anyways, do you remember seeing like a tether from your body to your spiritual body?
During the near death experiences, no. In the out of body, yes. Sort of. Sort of. I was five. Again, this was a few months after the drowning experience. I was in the hospital with encephalitis from chickenpox that didn't break out. So it attacked inward, it attacked my brain and nervous system. Um, and I remember floating up out of my body, and I would swim down the hallways. And I think because it was so close to the near death experience, that swimming was it was sort of a frame of reference that I could move through and know that I was moving. I don't know how to explain that any other way, but
That's fine.
I would swim down the hallways and go and visit different places. And then when I would return, I could see myself laying in the bed, and I would be like, how am I there and here at the same time? And there was this like kind of a string, like looking, I didn't see it all the time, or at least I don't remember that I did, but I do on occasion think, oh, that's how I go back. And then
Yeah.
I would go and I would do this little dive kind of thing. And I would, at the time, come up as thinking that maybe what I was experiencing was a dream. Back
Mhm.
then, I didn't have the awareness of different states just yet, but, and I would tell my mom, what I experienced. And years later, she told me that there was enough consistency in the things that I was saying that she started to go and validate and would come back and ask questions. And she said she didn't know how I did it, and of course, later on we knew that that was out of body experiences.
Okay, yeah, because I know, and speaking of that, I mean, like, I know there's a term that I kind of coined, and I coined it several years back, for when kids see spirits. And I coined the term the Santa Claus effect, for when we're younger, our minds are not corrupted by the everyday world, and we can see things that um, most people at older age can't see. But as we get older, we're told it's not real. It's just our imagination. Same with um, Santa Claus. When we're younger, we're told he's real. When we, if for any kids listening, I don't mean to. If you got kids listening, have
Shouldn't
them
be
turn
up this
away.
late anyway.
uh, uh, as we're younger, we're told he's real, and as we grow older, we're told he's not real. It's the same thing with the seeing spirits or having these out of body experiences that we can't understand. And a lot of people, like you said, that you had it validated. I, of course, like my abilities were validated by my mother because she knew that she had the same abilities, somewhat, not as strong as mine, but she had the ability. She knew that uh, the Wiccan pagan religion was passed down from generation to generation. So there was no kind of denying it for me, but there are people that do not get that validation. And I guess my question would be, have you ever experienced somebody that didn't get that validation, that maybe had trauma? Um, trying to think of how to put this, but when you're helping somebody with a trauma and they've had some traumatic experience like that, and they don't know what to do. They don't know how do you help them validate that?
Well, one thing I will say is that trauma in itself magnifies whatever intuitive capabilities have developed at the time that the person has the trauma. The challenge with that is that that intuition seems to be more locked into a fear-based radar, so to speak. So the person's nervous system is constantly scanning their environment looking for a threat. Where's the next threat going to come?
Mm,
So it's sort of finite in a sense. And when I'm working with my clients, I point out the important part here is that you're intuitive, that you have this ability to sense, see, feel, know, right? And I use all the different clear words. And as they transmute that energy out of their nervous system, as they start to tackle the negative core beliefs that they may have grown up with or without, and the experiences of, say, invalidation of various different aspects of themselves and their lives, and they start meaning making and they start loving themselves. What I see is that intuition moves out of that fear based, locked down, denser um, point to a more love based where it's more expansive. And instead of looking for a threat, they're looking for connection, they're looking for guidance, they're looking for love. And so people start to have really blissful and um, positive experiences when I would say 95% of my clients come to me being told that, some of their experiences as a child were not real, that what they believe now or thought about now was woo woo. And we all know why we have this trickle down effect from the last 2000 plus years.
hmm
Systems of control. That's where I'll leave that, right?
Yeah.
Um, so, it, I think most of my clients initially want to be validated in that their experience of whatever traumatized them was real and that they didn't deserve it, that they did not ask for it to happen. And then the hard pill to swallow, of course, is knowing that the responsibility of the healing is on them.
All right. And
Does that
now,
answer your question?
yeah. Oh, yeah. Now, going
Okay,
off of
good.
that, how? And I noticed this. I don't remember if it was from your website or from the little poster thing that you sent in the email. I can't remember. But anyways, how can we remember our divinity, overcome conditioning, and how can we reclaim our divine nature?
Sovereignty. Yeah, it's first of all recognizing, hey, let me question things I was told not to question. Let me explore, let me study, right? I want to know why I'm told not to look over there. Why, right? So recognizing how much cultural conditioning, family conditioning, um, and other forms of conditioning that exist in our world. It can vary from culture to culture, of course, too, but there are some universals. Um, I think that's really the first step is saying, hey, this doesn't seem like normal. And I don't understand why I'm being told that this is the only way to view something. So, having that curiosity, that inquisitiveness, and the courage to think outside of the box, to look beyond, to read between the lines, all of those metaphors, right? And then recognizing, is there a part of you when you really sit and think about it? Is there a part of you that feels like there's more to you, more to life than what you're experiencing currently?
Mhm.
So I use a visualization skill with my clients to help them shift and notice that they can shift. And I'll tell them, imagine an image or recall a time where you felt something, we'll say something joyful, right? shrink that image down to a small, like old projector slide size, put it in the palm of your hand. You walk into a dark theater, there's nobody in there. At the bottom of the screen that has the curtains covering the screen, you have a slot that says put slide here. You put it in, you go take a seat. You're sitting there with your popcorn, your Coke, and you're in the seat. The curtains open, the lights go darker, and boom, there's your image on the screen. And you're studying that image. You're looking at all the details. You're taking in every bit of that memory that you can grasp with all of your senses, with all of your feelings, the energy of it. And you're sitting there eating your popcorn and sipping your Coke. Now, imagine that you are standing behind you and you can see yourself sitting in that seat, sipping your Coke, eating your popcorn, looking at that screen, having all these feelings. Now, who is the you that's standing?
Mhm.
Who
Yeah,
is that?
what version of you, basically?
Right. So, you can say, all right, that's the observer self. You could go as far as in DBT, you might say wise mind. Some may say higher self. Some might say spirit soul. Everybody has a different way of kind of conceptualizing
Mhm.
that. But the point is, it's a different awareness of yourself, one that can observe the one in action, observe the thoughts, the feelings, the behaviors, the sensations, the memory, the energetic experience. So that you that can observe you is a greater you.
Okay. Now we are getting a little low on time here, but and I haven't got into the ley line, so I want to get into that part of it. Now, there are some people that know about the Earth's grid, the ley lines, basically, how they connect to like the pyramids and um, other Stonehenge and stuff like that. Now, how does Earth's grid, such as ley lines, nodes, vortices, how is that affecting people's energy?
Well, let me start by saying there are multiple grids. There are various dimensions of the grids, and there are different, it's not as clean cut as it may seem when you look that up online and you see the nice little geometric straight up pattern that they put around the earth to say this is what ley lines are. It's not that simple. Um, but the ley lines themselves are various forms of electromagnetic energy streams, and they are not static. They do kind of move and shift, they flow. Sometimes they get stopped up, sometimes they fizzle out a bit, or they get dense, heavy energy. Sometimes there's purposeful inversion of sacred geometry to lock in dense, heavy energies in certain places. But where you have lines cross at a 90-degree angle with each other, you have a high frequency point. Those high frequency points historically have been where stone hinges, wood hinges, temples, various types of altars, um, more modern churches, spas, things like that, retreat centers, are built on those cross points, those nodal points. When you have convergent points where you have different angles coming in it to come into a nodal point, you have more of a denser, heavy energy. And it's sort of like there I say that for a reason, this need for balance, counterbalance, right? So
Mhm.
you had these dense, heavy, and you had these high frequency. We're now shifting to that more crystalline earth grid. It's higher frequency energy. It's not electromagnetic as much as it is crystalline frequencies, and the counterbalances are not necessary. So it's often easy for anybody who can feel energy, knows the difference, and does work with the earth grids. You can sense where those dense, heavy spots still are. And for me, I can tell a lot about where the inversions are when we have a traumatic experience like a battle, right? That makes a deep imprint in the earth of that dense, heavy energy too, and it affects the ley lines in the area. Some might argue that the battle happened there because of ley lines. Um, I would say it could be either or, depending on the area. Um, does it affect our energy? Absolutely, and we affect it as well. So if
Yeah,
we're
because I
walking
noticed
around, most
a
of
lot of
us,
people are shooting to kind of a higher consciousness, becoming more aware of things um, these days. And I didn't know if that could be because of these ley lines shifting and everything like that.
well, the Earth is definitely being affected by these crystalline frequencies, these higher frequencies, higher energetic beings, even who have an effect on the Earth. The Earth has an effect on us, and we have an effect on the Earth. So it's sort of a mutual. I mean, the Earth could go on without us. We
Yeah.
couldn't necessarily go on without Earth, Nova Gaia. But yeah, there's sort of an equal give and take in a way.
All right, and we got about 5 minutes before I close out the show, but I did see one thing that kind of piqued my interest, and I wanted to know what it was about. And it was on the little flyer that you sent me in the email, and it mentioned Galactic Ambassador. And can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I am still learning what that actually means. I had gone through an experience that I took to a teacher of mine, one of my energy healing teachers, and asked, "What is this? What happened?" And she told me that I had a galactic activation. Now, I had already had some experiences with UFOs and beings of different frequencies, but this was something new and something different. And it emerged over time. And through a frequency medicine course that I was doing, the term galactic ambassador kept coming up, saying, "This is where you're moving towards. You're moving towards being a galactic ambassador." My understanding at this point is being able to tap into and communicate, and different groups communicate differently. And I don't think it's as much as being an ambassador between different beings and different groups of beings, but more so between them and humans, and helping
Okay.
humans to understand that this is not new now with some of this, disclosure that's been out. People are warming up more to the idea of, okay, you're not necessarily crazy if you believe in aliens, or you have had an experience with an extraterrestrial or a UFO of some sort, or now even balls of plasma. So, I think Galactic Ambassador, as it's unraveling for me and blooming, uh, I think what I'm coming to understand is that I would help ease that transition for people to understand and tap into and reconnect, because they've always been here. It's us that had to advance to be able to experience them.
Okay, because I didn't know if it was something like a ambassador to like. I know a lot of people just think aliens, and they don't think of the different possibilities of races of alien species like the Greys,
Yes,
the Anunnaki, the reptilians, so forth. So I didn't know if
Syrian,
it was like a
Pleiadian.
bastard to like maybe one of those species of alien extraterrestrial life.
Yeah. Well, and I will say at this point in history, I do believe that many people who are incarnated right now are galactic souls who came here with the skills and abilities they have to help humanity and help the earth, and certain life experiences sort of crack us open so that we can remember who we are.
All right. Well, we are almost out of time. So, um, can you tell us where we can find out more about you and the services that you provide?
Well, professionally speaking, the best way to contact me is to actually go to my Psychology Today profile. You just go to psychologytoday.com. You put my name in, you put in Georgia or Carrollton, Georgia. That's where I'm located. And you'll find me. And if you read through my profile with eyes to see and ears to hear, you will see the energy healing modalities that are there. And just know that that is a website to, or a profile to promote psychotherapy. But the energy healing and the spiritual coaching is separate from the psychotherapy because I'm bound to the state of Georgia because that's the way licensure
Mhm.
works. But I'm also on Facebook, on LinkedIn, Instagram.
All right. Well, and of course, everything is linked up on the talkingtonight.com website for my guest, Mindy. So you can find her website, you can find her Facebook, and there was another Facebook page. Let me see. Let me bring that up on my
Yes, I
computer
have
here.
two.
Ascended Mystic.
Yes.
And all that is up on the Talking Tonight website if you want to find out more about Mindy. So, Mindy, I want to thank you for coming on the show, giving us insight into your expertise and knowledge and everything like that. And it was a pleasure having you on the show.
Well, thank you very much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
And if you are listening and enjoying and watching Talking Tonight, why not take a piece of the show with you? Visit talkingtonight.com, click on more, then hover over the Talking Tonight merch store, and you can find the merch store there with t-shirts, coffee mugs, ball caps. Your support helps keep the conversation going. And if you want to put your business in front of a passionate late night audience, then Talking Night is now welcoming advertisers and sponsors. Reach your listeners' interest, reach listeners and watchers' interest. My brain is not working right. Reach listeners and viewers' interests in the topics discussed on the show. Visit talkingtonight.com to learn more or contact us today on the website or at talkingtonight@outlook.com. Grow your business with Talking Tonight. And before we head out, I tried to do a giveaway on the show last Friday, but I decided to take it in a different direction. We are gonna do a giveaway for the first 50 people. I know I already got subscribers, but I'll mention that in a moment. For the first 50 people, next 50 people that subscribe to the YouTube channel, you will be entered to win one of three books, which you'll see up here on the screen. Images of the show under window capture. I don't know if that's coming up. But anyways, we got three books. Um, Lithomancy, The Psychic Art of Reading Stones. Um, why is it on the start screen? Uh, it was for a second there. Okay, but anyways, let me. Sorry, there is a delay on the YouTube channel, so I'm trying to explain it. But anyways, we got three books. The uh, Lithomancy, Art, Psychic Art of Reading Stone, A Second in Eternity, a little lower, and those two are by Gary Wimmer, and then a little lower than Angels by Victor Font Jr. And three people will win those books. So there's going to be three winners. But as I mentioned, 50 different, the next 50 people that subscribe to the YouTube channel will be entered to win that. Now, as I mentioned, previous or after that 50 subscribers to the YouTube channel, don't worry, you will be entered into a contest to win a brand new t-shirt, which you'll see up on the screen here. And it's a new design that I'm going to release on September 1st. So you got till the second, I think it's, I'm trying to remember dates here, but when the last show is of August. Let me go to my calendar here real quick. The 28th is the last show on in August. So you got till the 27th to subscribe to the YouTube channel, and you'll be entered into win that T-shirt for free. It's a brand new design that will not be released until September 1st. So until Friday night, when I talk about AI and the AI takeover here is the open discussion, open line show for Friday night. I shall see you on the dark side. Good night.